the haunting echoes of Hollow High. Back in the day, there was a place called Hollow High. It was your typical high school, with its old brick walls, creaky floors, and dimly lit corridors. But there was something different about it, an unsettling aura that seemed to linger in the air, especially when the sun set and the school emptied out. Rumor had it that Hollow High had been built on the grounds of an old cemetery. A secret the school board tried to keep hidden. They say that some of the gravestones were moved, but not all of them. One night, during a late study session, a group of us decided to play a game of truth or dare. It started off innocently enough, but as the night grew darker, the dares became more daring. Eventually, someone dared me to venture into the abandoned east wing of the school, a place off limits to students due to its decrepit condition. Feeling a mix of excitement and unease, I reluctantly agreed. Armed with a flashlight and accompanied by a couple of friends, we entered the east wing. The air felt heavier there, and the sound of our footsteps echoed like distant whispers. As we explored, we stumbled upon a door at the end of a particularly long corridor. It was slightly ajar, and an eerie green light spilled out from within. Despite our fear, curiosity got the better of us. We pushed the door open. The room was filled with old books, dusty furniture, and peculiar symbols drawn on the walls. In the center of the room stood a mirror, not just any mirror, but one that seemed to hold a life of its own. As we gazed into it, our reflections started to morph, showing glimpses of sinister figures lurking in the shadows behind us. A sudden gust of wind blew through the room, extinguishing our flashlights. Panic set in as we fumbled in the dark, trying to escape the room. But the door had slammed shut, trapping us inside. The air grew colder, and whispers seemed to echo from all directions. One by one, our friends began to see things. Shadowy figures moving in the periphery of our vision, ghostly whispers that spoke in hushed tones, and the sensation of being watched by unseen eyes. Our screams filled the room as we desperately tried to unlock the door. Hours later, the door swung open, and the dawn's light flooded the room. Our friends were pale and shaken, their eyes haunted by the horrors they had witnessed. To this day, no one can explain what truly happened in that room. Some say we awakened something sinister. Others believe it was just a figment of our collective imagination. Whatever the truth, that night at Hollow High changed us forever. We all went our separate ways after graduation, but the memories of that harrowing night still bind us together. The Midnight Game. Dance of Shadows at Crestwood High. Crestwood High was known for its sprawling campus, complete with old oak trees and a mysterious abandoned building tucked away at the edge of the property. We had all heard the rumors that the building was once an orphanage, shrouded in tragedy, and said to be haunted by the spirits of those who had suffered within its walls. One night, a group of us gathered in the dimly lit common room of the school dormitory. The atmosphere was charged with a mix of excitement and nervousness. We were drawn together by a common desire to explore the abandoned building and uncover its secrets, regardless of the risks involved. Someone mentioned the Midnight Game, a ritual that was said to summon spirits and otherworldly entities. It was a dare none of us took lightly. Yet our curiosity outweighed our fear. The rules were simple. At the stroke of midnight, we would light a candle and knock on the door of the abandoned building 22 times, then immediately blow out the candle and re-enter the dormitory. The goal was to survive until 3:33. without being caught by the entity that would supposedly be unleashed. As the clock struck midnight, our hearts raced in unison. With trembling hands, we lit the candle and began knocking on the door. The echoes of our knocks seemed to blend with the rustling leaves and the distant hooting of an owl. We blew out the candle and retreated, watching the darkness of the building intently. Minutes passed like hours, and the tension was palpable. Suddenly, a shadowy figure seemed to materialize at one of the windows, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. Panic surged through us, and we turned to flee, only to find the dormitory door locked from the inside. Heart pounding, I could feel the presence behind us drawing nearer. We could hear whispers, soft, indistinct voices that seemed to echo from every direction. Desperation fueled our efforts as we tried to force the door open, our fingers slipping on the cold metal. Just as the figure at the window reached out, fingers inches from my shoulder, the dormitory door swung open, and we tumbled inside. The whispers faded, and the shadowy entity seemed to retreat into the night. We were left shaken, our breaths ragged, and our minds reeling from the close encounter. In the aftermath, we struggled to make sense of what had transpired. Was it a shared hallucination, or had we truly brushed against the supernatural? The memory of that night stayed with us. The Forgotten Melodies. Enchantment of Crescentwood High. Crescentwood High was known for its passion for the arts, but there was one place that held a special kind of magic: the school's abandoned music room. One rainy evening, a small group of us gathered in the corridors, huddled under umbrellas and sharing tales of the music room's enchanting history. Legend had it that the room was once the heart of the school's musical endeavors, but it had been locked away after a series of strange incidents left students and teachers unnerved. We decided to brave the rumors and see if there was any truth to the stories. Armed with flashlights, we ventured into the depths of the school, our hearts pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. As we reached the music room, the door creaked open as if welcoming us inside. The room was a time capsule, filled with dusty instruments, faded sheet music, and an air of nostalgia that seemed to hang in the air. We gathered around the old grand piano that stood at the center of the room, its keys worn with age. Someone dared me to play a few notes, to summon the forgotten melodies that were said to haunt the room. With trembling fingers, I pressed the keys, and the room seemed to come alive. The notes I played reverberated through the space, filling the air with a haunting yet beautiful tune. But it wasn't just me playing. It was as if the piano had a life of its own, as if the very essence of the music room was expressing itself through me. As the melody swirled around us, we felt a shift in the atmosphere. The room seemed to shimmer, and the air was charged with an electric energy. Suddenly, the instruments around us began to play on their own, each contributing to the symphony of sound that enveloped us. The music carried us away, transporting us to a different realm, where time held no meaning. It was as if we were part of the melodies themselves, dancing on the edges of reality and fantasy. But just as the crescendo reached its peak, the music abruptly stopped, and we found ourselves back in the dimly lit room, our hearts racing. As we left the music room, we couldn't shake the feeling that we had experienced something truly magical, a glimpse into a world beyond our understanding, where music was a bridge between the tangible and the ethereal. Years have passed since that enchanting evening, and we've all moved on to different chapters of our lives. Yet, whenever we hear a haunting melody or pass by a deserted music room, the memory of the forgotten melodies of Crescentwood High comes rushing back.